Come gather round the campfire and hear our ghostly tales of chilling terrors, darkest woes, and anything that goes bump in the night. So cuddle up with your best friend or dare it alone. The darkness is closing in and spirits are calling your name. This is Fireside Phantoms. I've got something very special. I've got the monster of Glamis Castle, which is pronounced Glamis Castle, located beside the village of Glamis in Angus, Scotland.
So it's in the anus of Scotland, you said?
Angus. I'm not pronouncing my G's. Oh, no.
No, you are. I'm just giving you shit. Oh. I'm just having fun with wordplay.
This castle has so many ghost hauntings. There are so many. And this monster or secret that's so terrifying, this castle was the focus of all of Europe's gossip during the second half of the 19th century. It's been the home of the Lion family since the 14th century, and it was also the childhood home of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and the birthplace of Princess Margaret. Even the way this castle was built, though, has a paranormal tale associated with it. The castle was built in 1016 and was the family home of the Earls of Strathmore and Kinghorn. It was a much smaller version of the present-day castle, but supposedly it was intended to be built on a hill nearby called the Hill of Denoon. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It's Denoon, Denoon.
Mm-hmm.
This particular area, though, had legends associated with it being the place where fairies ruled the land and weird anomalies with nature occurred. For example, rivers would reverse direction.
Oh, wow.
And certain people were basically lost roaming this area. And when they would be found or come back, they were enchanted. Mm-hmm. So they were just not the same when they spent too much time in the area of Denoon. And a legend was told that the Queen of Fairies repeatedly discouraged the building of this castle. So every morning after working on the castle the prior day, the builders would show up and they'd find their efforts to be totally in vain, for the building materials were thrown everywhere and the foundations completely torn down.
Uh-oh.
This happened repeatedly until it was finally decided to move the building of the castle to its present place nearby. And a deadly stream flows near the castle called the River Dean. It's just this small little river, but local people call it the Dowie Dean, meaning doleful or sinister, saying the river claims a life every single year.
Oh, wow.
In 1034, when it was used as a hunting lodge, it was recorded that King Malcolm II got himself assassinated there. And this is supposedly the first ghost that haunts the castle. And he was slain about a mile away from Glamis Castle after being attacked and mortally wounded, and was carried to die in an upstairs chamber in the castle that still bears the name of King Malcolm's room. And so this is the first authentic event mentioned by historians in connection with Glamis Castle. And people say that they hear moaning and him haunting that room in the castle.
Do you think the moaning is because he was injured when he was brought in, so like he's still in pain? Do you think that's what it is? The ghost of his
he was just dying and in agony.
Yeah.
Or maybe people crying because their king is dead, or dying. Glamis is also traditionally associated with Shakespeare's Macbeth.
Okay.
And in the Old Tower is Duncan's Hall. The name of Glamis, as it was sometimes spelt, will recall the traitorous Lady Macbeth and the murder of King Duncan, which the story of Macbeth gives as taken place here at the castle of Glamis. But most agree this location of the castle is just inspiration for the story. And they think that Macbeth was just inspiration because Shakespeare would visit Glamis Castle and stay there, but it's not based in any historical facts. However, the biggest secret is that of a hideous monster being born to this family, or something that they are hiding in the castle. And they don't know what it was. Some people said they saw the monster, and they described the monster of Glamis as being this deformed hairy toad with an enormous barrel chest, no neck, and skinny little arms and legs. And they theorized that to protect the family from shame, they kept this deformed kid his whole life in hiding.
So
But
there's got to be a Harry Potter reference in here, Carol.
he kind of looks like Dobby, I think.
Oh, okay. All right.
Only bigger, but like Toady, kind of. Maybe one of those like gringo, like of the bank, the people who guard the money. What are they
I
called?
don't, because I don't really know much about Harry Potter, but I know a lot of people who listen to it do know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's like a goblin.
It's Gringotts.
Gringotts.
Right? Yep.
Yeah, it's the monster Gringotts. There we
Yes,
go.
exactly. Of course.
With everybody gossiping and nobody really knowing, you have some just bizarre tales out there. Some people think it's a vampire
Okay.
that they're hiding.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think it's, this deformed child that they want to hide away from everybody. Some people think it's an actual monster creature that they took from the fairy forest or the fairy where the fairies are.
Okay.
And that they've captured this creature and they've kept it hostage in their castle. But whatever it is such a crazy secret that only 3 people at any one time were allowed to know about it. It's that horrifying. So the only 3 people who were allowed to know was the Earl of the castle, the Earl's heir or firstborn male, and the estate manager of the castle. And the firstborn would only be told about it only after they reached the age of 21, and they had to go through an initiation ritual.
Is this monster secret? Well, how do the people know that this is going on? Like, is it just rumor or what was?
It's rumor, and also villagers. So they think that they brought this thing out or let it out on the castle grounds at night so it could get some air.
Okay.
And so villagers would spot this thing sometimes on the roof at night.
Okay.
Gossip just gets escalated as it goes on and on.
Under the cloak of darkness, they can see something, but they don't know quite what it is. They just know it's not right.
There's a reasonable explanation as to maybe the origins of it. They're thinking it was the firstborn son of the 11th Earl, Thomas Boweslyon, and his wife Charlotte Boweslyon, because it was recorded that they had their first child, and it was a son that was born and died on the same day. So they think the child actually lived, and they just fabricated his death.
Gotcha. Cool.
Now, the 13th Earl of Strathmore, when he was on his deathbed, he was reported to have said, if you could even guess the nature of this castle secret, you would get down on your knees and thank God it was not your secret to keep.
Oh, wow. That's pretty heavy.
Pretty traumatic, isn't
it? Wow.
Yeah. Huh. So, and accordingly, the 13th Earl of Strathmore, when he reached 21, he just flatly refused to participate in the initiation rite.
Smart guy.
He was like, I don't want to know it. I don't have any care to know it. It's caused my family such misery that
I don't want that burden.
He just said no. And many suspect that the mystery died with the 14th Earl. An event took place in 1850 because what's happened is a lot of these earls' wives are curious about the secret and nobody will ever tell them. So one day when the 12th Earl's wife was away on a trip, she wanted to have her guests help her find the secret room in the castle. And so the guests that were there began by coming up with a plan that the secret room probably had a window because, even plants need some light,
Right.
So with the coast being clear, somebody came up with the idea to hang towels or handkerchiefs out the windows all over the castle. And the one that didn't have a handkerchief hanging out of the window would be the secret room. But their attempt was interrupted because the Earl returned unexpectedly as they were doing it.
Oh.
And he was so angry, Holly, he banished his wife to Italy and divorced her immediately.
Whoa. Shoot.
Yes, and a Scotland paper once told of a workman who, because this castle would constantly being renovated and expanded over the years, this workman accidentally knocked through a wall to reveal a secret room, and he was confronted by the family to leave the area immediately. And it was said the family gave him a huge amount of money if he would be willing just to go right then and there, and they paid for him to relocate to Australia.
And when did this happen?
It didn't say, it just said a Scotland paper told of a workman who during renovations did this. So sometime during, I would say probably during one of the major renovations that they had this going on.
I'm just wondering how long this thing lived. Like,
well, I will get to that. There's some
Okay.
theories about that.
Okay.
There's also a ghost called the Gray Lady of Glamis, and she's
Okay.
seen in a gray dress surrounded by a red glow. And she frequently haunts the chapel of this castle and the clock tower. And people who've witnessed her, they think she's the ghost of Lady Janet Douglas, who was charged with plotting to murder King James V of Scotland. This basically was based on no evidence. She was also accused of poisoning her husband, the 6th Lord of Glamis, because he suddenly died after eating his breakfast. But when he died, her former husband's cousin, I think his name is like Lord Campbell, he made these unwanted advances on her, and this went on for years. And out of revenge for her not returning his affection, accused her publicly, along with her young son and brother, of witchcraft and plotting to murder the king.
Oh.
So she was burned at the stake in Edinburgh, and her young son, because of his age, was sent to prison to be tried later when he was older. But when Lord Campbell was on his deathbed, he finally confessed that all his evidence was just false at the trial. But they did let her son out of prison, and he was given back his rights to the castle and the lands. But they say that she haunts the castle quite frequently.
I bet she does. I bet she's super pissed off. I bet she's looking for that guy to be like, really? Just because I didn't want to make out with you?
I know.
Have me burned at the stake? I mean, come on.
This is probably my favorite of all the ghost stories here. This ghost is Earl Bertie. That's his nickname. And he was the 4th Earl of Crawford. One day, many centuries ago, he was entertaining the head of another noble family residing in Angus. And, and in the course of the evening, they started to play cards. And it was a Saturday night, and they were just really getting into it. And they were wagering all kinds of money and land on the game, and they didn't recognize how late it was going. And I guess, like, as it was approaching midnight, this old servant in the castle came in to remind them of the hour that it is now Sunday morning, the Sabbath. And upon hearing that, one of the gamblers swore this huge oath that basically had the agreement of the other gambler that they didn't care what day it was. They were going to finish their game at any cost, even if it went on playing until doomsday. And so after, all the striking of the clock past midnight had finished, there suddenly appeared a stranger dressed in black who politely informed their lordships that he would take them at their word and vanished. The story goes that there are loud noises heard, sounds of dice, and probably some cussing every autumn on a certain night. And I don't think it's Halloween, but isn't that cool?
So they're still playing their game?
They're still playing their game to doomsday. And it goes on in the castle on that night every year on that night. Yeah.
Do they have like paranormal teams go in there around that time of year to see if they can pick it up?
Yeah, this castle is open to the public. You can visit, and it is great. They even have
we should go there.
They even have a Macbeth trail that you can walk on, and they have all this memorabilia of the Shakespeare play and book. And
what is the poem? Boil, boil, double, and toil, witches, broom, and something. It is double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble, fillet of a fenny snake, in the cauldron boil and bake, eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and ton of dog, adder's fork and blindworm's sting, lizard's leg and howlet's wing, for a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth boil and bubble, double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble, cool it with a baboon's blood, then the charm is firm and good.
Wow. That's a lot of ingredients going into that thing.
It sounds like it might be kind of tasty, though. I'm not going to lie.
Maybe they serve it at the castle. We'll have to ask. They have ghost tours there too, and a Halloween like fun haunted house through the castle. So that should definitely be on our to-do list.
Yeah, let's add that to the things to do on Halloween or Friday the 13th or at the witching hour.
There are more ghost stories, believe it or not.
I can't. I can imagine. It sounds like the perfect place for ghosts and monsters and vampires and lords of
awesome.
yore. I mean, it's amazing.
So you know the writer Sir Walter Scott?
No.
The writer Sir Walter Scott, who spent a night at Glamis in 1794, said he was super spooked when he stayed there. Supposedly, there is a haunted cup in the castle, and this silver mug is in the shape of a lion. And you'll love this. It can hold a whole bottle of wine.
Oh, I do love that. That's nice.
So they have a tradition there that when visitors visit, before they leave, they're made to drain the cup before they walk out the door.
Wait, is that for some kind of a haunting reason, or is that because he just wants them to get plastered before they leave?
I think it's just a tradition that they always had. The family, like before they send a visitor off into the great beyond, they have to drain the silver mug filled with wine. And maybe it's to keep them there at the castle. Maybe they really don't want them to leave, and so they're hoping
because they want to have another ghost added to the castle. Is that why?
Maybe. The story goes that Sir Walter Scott had to do this, and he got so drunk that he went off in the wrong direction and had to have help from the locals to find his way to the right road.
Oh, that's funny.
So besides embarrassing walks of shame, the cup is said to bring misery and tragedy for those who drink from it. So maybe this, tradition started because they just wanted to bring bad fortune on everyone else because they had to live with a monster in their castle.
Is the cup still there? Is it still at the castle? So if you go visit, the cup would be there?
I don't know. I want to find out.
Yeah, me too. Let's go to Scotland.
Let's do it.
Hi, I'm Cassie.
I'm Tiffany, and we're the hosts of Happy Hour Gets Weird. On our podcast, we talk all things weird, like UFOs, Bigfoot, astrology, ghosts, and even true crime. And every episode, we create a fabulous new cocktail. So fabulous. If you're looking for a little weirdness, please search Happy Hour Gets Weird on your favorite podcast platform. Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
One time, Holly, a serving maid stumbled on the terrible secret herself, and horrified, she wanted to expose it. She said, this has got to be exposed. And so the Earl at the time ordered the guards to cut her tongue out.
Oh, God.
But as they were cutting her tongue, she broke free and tried to escape through the grounds, but they caught her on the grounds and killed her. And her ghost is seen running, but of course not screaming because she doesn't have a tongue.
Ooh, that fucks me up. That's very disturbing. That's a scary story.
But people say this is one of the scariest ghosts they see because there's blood running out of her mouth.
Oh, God, I bet there is. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
God.
There was supposedly a servant boy who was brutally hunted to death by an earl and his guests in just a Savage Fun hunting game. So
gosh.
These people were kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought how scary that would be if you were like essentially captured by some wealthy people who like to hunt real people for like a fun, and you're taken out to woods and released, and then you have to like hide. I mean, I think that's so scary.
It is so scary.
Just the idea, the concept of that is terrifying.
In 1486, there was an Ogilvy clan. There's all these clans. This Ogilvy clan sought shelter from the Lindsay clan during a feud at Glamis Castle.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, okay, yeah, come in. You'll be safe. You'll be safe. They brought them to a secret room in the cellar, and they locked them in and walked away. But I don't know whether they forgot that they were in that room, or they purposely did that because they had done like a deal with the Lindsay clan. But weeks later, someone else ventured down and opened the door, and they only found one person alive. And they had to cannibalize his own family to survive.
Oh,
so
God.
all of these ghosts are said to like haunt the castle as well.
Oh, geez. So the entire cannibalized family, as well as the person who cannibalized them, haunts the castle?
Yeah.
Oh, that's some fucked up shit. I don't know. Now I'm not sure if I want to go there. It
We
just
just
seems
won't-
like there's too many bad things that can happen to you.
We just won't stay in the like cellar area.
In the
That's where
suite,
the bad guys
in
are, or the
the- yeah.
prisoners.
And the tongueless girl suite
Yeah, and we won't stay in the tongueless girl suite.
with the cup of wine that you have to drink till you die. Like there's so many amazing things that can happen to you at this place.
Well, and the river that supposedly kills you. There's also a ghostly man in armor that walks the floor at night, and they think it's possibly of a prisoner who ended his life in the dungeon. Also, Virginia Gabriel, who was a singer and according to her niece, returned from a long stay at the castle in 1870 and said that the caretaker of the state, who was there at the same time, is a very stubborn man, she said, and he refused ever to spend a night at the castle, even though he managed the castle's affairs.
Smart.
But during her stay, she said there was a sudden snowstorm one evening and it covered the estate in several feet of snow. Regardless, this estate manager refused to take a spare room, but instead, because he was the estate manager, made every servant in the house wake up and come outside, and they had to dig a path to his home, which was a mile away from the castle.
Boy, he had some pull if he can get everybody out of bed to do that. My
Well, he
God.
managed all the people. So
Yeah.
he was like, I'm not staying here. So you guys are digging me basically a mile long path in the snow.
Wow.
Yeah. And Charles Dickens, I know you know that writer.
Sure.
Yeah. At the height of all the rumors in 1810, he was saying that so many people bragged to him that they knew the secret. He said this went on every time he had dinner, and they would go to a smoking room at night and over, cooling lemon squash, steaming toddies, champagne. Everybody would be making promises to him that they
Hot
would
oyster
tell,
nectar.
yeah, that they would tell him the secret of the castle. But he said it never happened because nobody ever really knew it. And the theory is that somehow they think the death took place around 1904 because at that time, the 13th Earl passed on, and soon afterwards, the New York Tribune reported that because the Earl of Strathmore, now the new one, would be willing to lease his castle to the public, it must mean that this horrible mystery in connection with the castle is now at an end, or that the secret no longer exists.
Well, maybe it was like, that movie, The Elephant Man?
Yeah. Maybe it was based on that.
somebody. Yeah, maybe it was somebody with that same kind of affliction.
Well, I know a lot of royal families, because they do interbreed. They do have some deformities in their family line. And it was a common thing for these royals to have what's called disappointment rooms. I know my family had a disappointment room. Did yours?
Well, my family has a disappointed house. Every room's a disappointment.
So I just can't believe it would just be a deformed child. I mean, this thing has to be something just so ominous for it to cause that much.
It has such an epic, legendary reputation that you would hope it be more than just deformities.
It has to be, right? Because
does it eat live chickens? Like, what does it do? Like,
I don't
why
know.
is it so
That's why
threatening to
I think
people?
it's got to be an actual monster. It has to be like just so awful that people
And he
can't
has to
handle
live-
looking at it.
Yeah, and he has to live in a haunted castle to boot. So it's like, it's one thing after another. There's a fairy that's going to get you. There's a ghost that's going to get you. There's a cursed land. There's a crazy stream that flows backwards. There's this
There's
monster.
a haunted mug.
It's just, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
This
it's
place
just,
is amazing.
It's totally amazing. And on top of that, in researching Glamis Castle, I came across the spookiest website ever. It's called glamiscalling.org. GLAMIS calling.org. Yes, you have my permission to go on it right now if you want.
Okay, I'm going to. I was hoping you'd say so.
Okay.
Okay.
But you
Say it
guys,
again.
it's called Glamis Calling, GLAMIS calling.org. I don't pull up stuff .org. It's mainly .com stuff, but somehow I came across this and it was nothing to do with the actual castle. It's the craziest thing. It's like a secret. I don't know if it's a fake website, but you'll
Are
see
you
when you pull it up.
It's weird.
It's so weird.
Jurbai's power station, all delegates and electors, strategic advances, supreme headquarters, allied powers, Europe. It's some like New World Order thing.
Like, what's
Hamelin,
going
we
on?
shall never forget. Washington Tower, maritime alert. I don't know what this is.
You guys are on a watch list now?
Probably.
Oh God, you guys, like, what is this site? That's basically it. The only thing I was going to say is, I think nowadays, instead of disappointment rooms, they send people off to boarding school. I think that's what happens. I know that's what happened to me.
That's what a disappointment room was, is like where you're sent if they are disappointed in you.
Yeah, if you're not fit to be, around company, if they're so ashamed of you,
That's awesome.
you would have to be shut away in the disappointment room while the visitors visited the castle or the family.
It kind of makes me want to have kids now, because then I could just send them to their disappointment room.
No, they don't exist anymore.
With Wrinkles the clown. I want you to go into the disappointment room and Wrinkles will be with you in a minute.
Well, I happen to love kids, Holly, so
All right, well.
I'm going to have to stop you from that.
You probably won't, because it's not going to, there will be no children around me for it to be an issue. But yeah, that's good to know that happened back in the day.
It's not for lack of advertising, that's for sure.
Oh, that's right. Well,
We all have our thing.
Well, thank you, Carol. That was a really good story. Actually, it was amazing to me how many stories came out of that one place.
I know. That's why I was like, okay, I was trying to find 2 short stories this week. And I'm like, oh God. Oh my God, this castle is so much.
So much. It's all really cool. And I love the fact that there is a mysterious monster that nobody's ever been able to exactly come out and say what it was, because that kind of makes it more shrouded in mystery, right?
Absolutely.
It just makes it even creepier. And then all the ghost stories.
Right.
My God.
Nobody ever really knew what it was. It's never, and it's like died with history because the 13th Earl refused to be initiated.
I bet the Queen of England knows what it was.
I bet, because they tried to talk to her sister or cousin or something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, they had heard all the gossip about it. But when they went to their parents, their parents said, do not talk to us about this. Don't ever mention it again. I will absolutely never talk about the subject again.
So weird, because you would think at this point, that
it wouldn't be a big deal.
It wouldn't be, who cares? Yeah, they had a deformed kid up there or whatever it was, that it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But maybe the incest part of it was a problem. Like if it was from incest, maybe it's one of those things because they're a family of nobility, that if it was shown what they produced, that it would like knock them down a few pegs because it was so hideous.
Well, and this firstborn, if it really was their firstborn child that they said died and it didn't, could you imagine? They had to, and it lives,
and they lost face.
Had to have given that child the reign. He's a legitimate.
Oh, right.
Heir.
Oh, that's actually a very good way to think about it. That's right, because he would have been the one to inherit the castle.
And they could never let that happen. So nobody could know about it.
That would make a lot of sense why they would want to keep that hidden then. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Or it's a vampire. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's both a deformed kid and a vampire. Maybe they fed it blood. Maybe it was an evil fairy. Maybe
like a green god.
Like a green god. Whatever the hell a green god is. I'm gonna go with Gollum because at least I've seen Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, we can do Lord of the Rings. I'm very well versed on Lord of the Rings. It doesn't matter.
I'm not opposed to Harry Potter, just because I know a lot of people that listen to our show like Harry Potter and they love your references, by the way. Oh. So I think you should keep referencing Harry Potter, and someday I'll watch those movies and catch up.
And you know what, Holly? You should always reference Lord of the Rings. It could be a battle.
I
'Cause
only
I
saw
love
the
Lord of the Rings.
I only saw the first 2 Lord of the Rings though. So if anything happened in the third Lord of the Rings, I'm gonna be shit out of luck because I have no
Okay.
idea.
Well, you better watch the third Lord of the Rings.
I have this problem where whenever there's a movie franchise that comes out and there's like 3 or 4 movies, I never see the last one. Lizard's leg and Howlet's wing for a charm of powerful trouble, like a
Oh no, we
Oh,
lost Holly.
We lost Holly.
Oh no, the spell like banished Holly.
Yep. She's toiling.
She's toiling in trouble and boiling in bubbles.
Shit.
a lot of gingers, and you can't trust a ginger. So,
Oh my God, cut that, Josh. You gotta totally
Josh,
cut
Josh, cut that.
Yeah, we'll cut that.
You're a
That's
ginger,
bad.
Holly.
That's
we know
bad.
you're real. We know you're real.
Well,
hair
that's not what
color.
the carpet says, but
Oh God. Okay, we gotta cut that too.
no, we can
Holy-
keep that.
Okay. Is she going to her computer?
Are you talking about me?
Oh, you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. Oh, I see how it is. When you think I'm gone, you start talking about me.
What
That's
did we
weird.
stumble across the Illuminati
You may have. This might
at
be
Glamis Castle?
You might. Maybe that's what they're keeping locked up in that castle. It's not a monster. It's just the head of our world organizations.
As the flames die down, do remain undaunted.
Though all hitchhikers are ghosts,
And all dolls are definitely haunted.
hey guys, be sure to follow us on Instagram. Our handle is @FiresidePhantoms. If you have a spooky story you would like to share with us, send it to firesidephantoms@gmail.com and you may hear it on a future episode.